President Biden has been clear-eyed about the threat the former president represents to our democracy and how the former president constantly works to undermine basic American values and rule of law. And President Biden has, of course, spoken repeatedly about how the former president abused his office, undermined the Constitution, and ignored his oath to the American people in an effort to amass more power for himself and his allies.
Putting all the blame on President Trump is definitely not fair. And it's also furthering the divide in the country. I mean, so much for this whole idea of unity that President Biden talked about in his inauguration and on that ABC New Year's Eve special. I mean, we've been clear about our thoughts on January 6th. The same people who are outraged now, by the way, on the left, they sat silent and in many cases encouraged violence. Think about Chuck Schumer when he talked about going after Gorsuch. Think about Congresswoman Maxine Waters when she talked about going after our Trump officials. And so many of the other people who sat silent and did nothing and had no outrage during those BLM riots that resulted in violence, destruction, vandalism, nothing from them then.
It's such a good point. And the left has failed to discuss the riots that happened for months before January 6th incident. You know, we reported on that for weeks. Months even. But many on the left in the media, they were silent. According to The Guardian, 9 people were killed during Black Lives Matter protest. And this is one of the most astounding numbers to me. More than 22,000 police officers were injured. So, Sean, I mean, why isn't there a commission on this? Why isn't there justice for those police officers, for the businesses who were hurt, the people who were killed and lost a loved one?
You remember the retired police captain, David Dorn? What about his death? What are we doing to make sure that it's acknowledged, that we don't let that happen again? No one on the left wants to talk about that. You got all these broadcasts that are going to come from Washington, D.C. tomorrow. The NBCs, the CNNs, they're all going to broadcast here. But they've said nothing. Nothing. In fact, they've justified it. They've legitimized it, all of the destruction, the vandalism, and that's just those news reports that you cited are just the things that we know. How many other people were injured or beaten that we don't even know about? I mean, it's unbelievable. By the way, our guest was supposed to be on that committee that's investigating the January 6th riots. But House Speaker Nancy Pelosi, as you right remember, rejected Minority Leader Kevin McCarthy's appointment of Congressman Jim Banks and Jim Jordan from being on the committee. So therefore, it left 0 minority members being appointed to that committee. Joining us now would have been one of those members, Texas Congressman Troy Nehls. Congressman, thanks for joining us. I really appreciate it.
Sean, Lyndsay, it's good to be with you. Good to be with you.
You know, you were just 3 days into a career as a member of Congress and found yourself helping to barricade the chamber doors against rioters who were trying to break down. I want to just start by asking, how did that incident shape or change you in the year that has ensued?
Well, I don't know. I mean, obviously, this event on January 6th has received an enormous amount of attention across the globe. I mean, there were obviously several photos that were being taken. Obviously, you're showing some of them now. But, you know, I was at the center doors, you know, that day, and the center doors that split the House. And those were the center doors that the president walked through for the State of the Union. And I knew that Vice President Pence and others would be walking down those doors. We were going through certifying the electors. We got to the state of Arizona, and then things got a little ugly. Obviously, many Capitol Police, plain clothes and uniform, you know, rushed in, took Nancy off the dais, and then started securing the doors. And then the back door started shaking rapidly, very, very violently. And you can see that there were others that placed some furniture in front of the doors. I broke a hand sanitizer and had a wooden jousting stick. And you can see I was using that as my weapon to try to keep the individuals from coming onto the House floor. But just kind of a sad day. It's a black eye on the American people, on America. I think our adversaries today are looking at this and saying, look at America. I mean, what took place on January 6th, what you saw in the summer riots the year prior. I mean, when we disagree with each other today, we either cancel you or we're going to hit you in the nose.
Unfortunately.
Congressman, Republicans are planning to release their own Capitol riot report, which is in order to discredit the January 6th committee, criticizing the failure to act on intelligence and cops being underprepared, what many people warned them about. What do you hope to accomplish with this report, and have you had any cooperation from Democrats?
Well, when Leader McCarthy, asked me to be on this committee, it was honored. I was the only freshman to be asked, and I think he took my 30 years in law enforcement and my past 8 years serving as a sheriff of a large county with 826 employees. So I think he wanted to exploit that experience that I have, and rightfully so, because January 6th was really a law enforcement matter. But you look at it, Nancy Pelosi did something never done before. She rejected a minority leader's picks to be on a select committee. So that was the first time ever. And now you look at this sham committee, you've got Adam Kinzinger, you've got Liz Cheney. They both despise Trump. Well, Adam's not seeking re-election, thank goodness, and Liz Cheney's going to get clobbered in Wyoming. So this committee is made up of Pelosi selections, obviously. Benny Thompson, the chair of the committee, he's a puppet, but Nancy Pelosi is the puppet master. And this committee has one thing in common. It's all about Donald Trump. They despise the man. I said I actually think they have a crush on him because they're talking about him all day long. And they're trying to go after Trump. They're trying to go after his associates, Mark Meadows, Steve Bannon, contempt of court or Congress charges. So this is all about Donald Trump. They fear the man in 2024, and they're going to do everything they can to continue to criticize him and blame him solely for January 6th. Because let's be honest, they have nothing else to talk about. You're not going to talk about inflation. You're not going to talk about the poor southern border. You're not going to talk about your failures in Afghanistan. We're going to focus on January 6th, and the Republican leadership need to understand that this isn't going to go away anytime soon.
So I want to pick up on that because I've been to a bunch of Trump rallies. And that's not the behavior that I've seen from Trump supporters. What I've always said is it's not just about January 6th. It's about the 5th, the 4th, the 3rd, December 31st. It's finding out who were the people behind this. I don't think they represent Trump supporters. I don't. I've been around them. I've been with them. That's not who I've been with. And so I want to know who the people were that actually did bad things, because it's creating a stain on the people who have supported President Trump, supported his policies, and yet we can't find out right now about Nancy Pelosi's actions, whether she was called, whether she called for action, what steps she took from the Capitol Police. So I don't feel like this committee's actually trying to find out what happened, whether the Capitol was prepared, whether Nancy Pelosi had a role. It's just, as you say, about Trump.
Absolutely, Sean, you're right on target here. And this committee right now is, you could ask Benny Thompson, who is Ray Epps? And he probably won't even know who Ray Epps is. He knows Mark Meadows, he knows Steve Bannon, he knows Trump. But when you look at the Revolver News did and their story on individuals like Ray Epps and the video that's out there, we've arrested the DOJ and FBI have arrested over 700 people. There were grandmas and grandpas inside that building there that didn't do anything. They were walking around. They didn't assault anybody. They didn't break any windows. They didn't do anything but enter the building. And so that's what our focus is, on people like that. But yet you got a guy like Ray Epps who's on video on the 5th already, talking about going into the building, entering the building. He even makes a claim there that he said, I could be arrested for this. Ray Epps should be in jail today. He should be charged under 18 U.S.C. 1202, which is inciting a riot, which if you incite a riot and it causes serious bodily injury or death, you're subject to 10 years in prison. Ray Epps is walking around today. He was the FBI's one of the first 20, the wanted most 20, and he's walking around today. And there are others that this Revolver News has done one hell of a job capturing some of these guys. They were taking down fencing. They were taking down the restricted areas. And you're right, Sean. People don't leave a Trump rally early. He spoke until 1:10 p.m. that day, and the first breach took place at 12:53, and they weren't Trump supporters.
I think that's what I want to hear more of and get more information about, because I think your analysis is right and it doesn't make sense. Anyway, Congressman Troy Nehls, thank you, sir, for joining us. I appreciate your time and your insights.
Thank you. God bless you both.
That's the kind of guy that should have been on that committee, by the way.